Hello, Chief. Hello, YouTube. This is Teresa. It is Sunday, February 14th, and oh, buddy. What you want? Hi. Hi. Are you hungry? Should I feed you? I'll be right back. Hello, YouTube. This is Teresa. This is day 14 of my 28-day video challenge, and I've been editing and refilming all day. So, happy Valentine's Day. So, today is Sewing Sunday. It is Sunday. Happy Valentine's Day again. I am going to give you this week a little tour of my sewing tools. I keep 2 containers. I have a small zip pouch and I have a very large sewing box. So we're going to go through and see how I keep my basic supplies organized. Hope you enjoy. Okay, so we shot about a half hour of footage, and the more I looked at it, the more annoyed I was that I had chopped off the top of my head. So we're going to switch to this viewpoint so that we can show you what's inside everything. What I have here is I have my little go-to bag, which is, this is the thing I can carry with me. I can put it in a tote bag. It has all of my super essential items. And then this is my main stash. And this is in addition to the sewing room I have. So this has all of the bigger stuff and things for special projects. This is not counting my toolbox that has craft supplies like hot glue guns, mallets, leatherworking stamps. This is strictly sewing. This is more for machine sewing. This is more for hand sewing because you only need so much when you're hand sewing. And then I also have a little overflow basket. So sometimes we have this and we just narrow it down to the actual threads we need. Maybe the project will fit in that basket and that sits on top of it. So we have various sizes of compartments. Right now we're just going to put that aside because we're not dealing with specific projects. We're just dealing with the primary kit. Okay? Oh. Okay, we decided it would be far more efficient to just pull everything out of the container so I could do this handheld, because I do not have a clamp set up to be able to pan or view. So let's just start off with what was in the smaller bag, which was this bag here. I've emptied it out, and everything that is here all fit inside. A lot of the smaller items would go inside this tin or this tin, and then everything else packed in that bag. So let's start off with kind of the order of operations. You know, when you're getting ready to sew something, you usually measure it. So I have 2 different tapes. I have a 59-inch tape, which is kind of the standard tape measure, but now they're coming out with a double long with 120. This is good, especially if you're measuring things like capes or long dresses that are, you have a very tall person or a plus size person. So that's very helpful for that. I have my white and blue marking chalk so that I can mark it, and I keep it in this tin. That seems to keep it all fairly tidy. Sometimes things get broken out into other locations, but I can just keep that, and that is fairly solid. So that all stays in there, and it keeps the chalk from getting everything else dirty. So the next thing we have is after you've measured something and you've marked it, you're usually going to cut your pieces out. So I have a collection of scissors that I have, like if I'm doing historical reenactment, I just need some little hand scissors while I'm embroidering. I'll try to use one of these 2 pair to make things look a little more authentic. Sometimes I just want something really lightweight and small that I can either put around my neck or keep in my pocket. And then sometimes when I'm actually cutting, actual fabric, I will use that. The next thing you have is when you are handling your thread and you're preparing your thread, and I'm gonna do needles last, but when you're preparing your thread, you often have to wax your thread to keep it from knotting up or curling on you. So a block of beeswax is often handy, and then you can take the piece of thread and run it over there and just dig it through the wax, and it'll coat it in a layer. It'll make it much more smoother stitching with less knots and bowing up. You often need to be able to grip or push the needle through without messing up your hands. So I have thimbles. This one is particularly interesting. If you see that little groove there, you can push, and you put the needle in there and push it through, and that keeps it away from your hands and gives you a little more strength. So I found this is very nifty. Sometimes if you go through, you can find all sorts of little gadgets in the aisles at Joann's or your fabric store. This is my favorite thimble. I usually keep it on a string around my neck. The reason I like it is it has a thread cutter, which is awfully handy. And this just fits my hand really well. It does not have a ridge. I've got a larger collection of thimbles in my larger box. So when we go through that, I will show you that those thimbles that have the ridge. But these come in different sizes because your fingers are different sizes. So you want something, this is for a larger finger. So this one is slightly larger, and I'll use it if I'm wanting to keep these fingers free. Like if I'm doing a rolled hem or something and I need to have the full use of these fingertips on the front, I'll use that one too. So these are the two I probably use the most. Seam rippers. This is pretty much my standard one. I like to use the larger ones. I just go through the smaller ones. This guy is pretty handy. I got that at Joann's a while back. If you have to rip out a whole seam and you want to get all those little pieces of leftover thread, you can rub this on the fabric and all the little cut bits will fluff out. And it's a seam ripper inside, but you can still take it and do that to get all the little bits out. And it really does help. If you are making a hole and you don't want to cut the fabric, but you're making an eyelet hole that you're going to whip stitch, this is a hair mabob. What do you call it? Not a hair spike, but it's a hair stick. How difficult was that? But this is wonderful. It's like rosewood or something really heavy. And I found sometimes wooden knitting needles can work also, depending on the type of wood that they use, are good at working that through. So you can keep this in your hair, and then when you need to make a hole, you can always grab it out in a pinch. I keep mine, it actually fits in this tin over here. So that's one of the things it goes into. This is just a random little, Altoids tins will work also, but Celestial Seasonings, this is magnetic. So sometimes that's good to pick up little bits, or sometimes if I'm just, it's like, oh, we're done for the day, we're done the sewing circle, everybody get out, then I'll just throw stuff in there if I have loose things. It's just easier. I keep my needle threaders in here. I usually keep one or two because for some reason I'll not be able to find one. So random buttons, random pins sometimes get tossed in there until they get put back into this. The main place I keep most of my needles are either in these are toothpick holders. If you ever go to Cracker Barrel, they have these, they used to, well, they cost more now. Back in the day, you could get them for $1 a piece, and I would buy like 8 or 10 of them at a time, and I would give them out as gifts in the SCA to people who were new and learning how to hand sew, so that they would have something that looked period S that they could keep their needles in. And I think I have one that I've just kind of marked small to medium needles, and then some of these others, like I know this one has large, just because I have a big strand of linen coming out of it, and that's kind of a loosey-goosey cap, so having the thread come out that's on a needle kind of keeps that cap tight-ish, although it looks like it's caused a crack in the top, so I'm not worried about it. I've got plenty of these. So put that up, put that up. We're going to get to this in a minute. I'm going to put this at the end so I don't forget about it. Okay, so we've covered that. These, I want to cover these. These are magnificent. These are little bits of rubber. I don't know if you can, I'm doing this one-handed, but you grip the needle with it. And it is, you know those rubber things you use to open jars and it gives you the grip strength? This comes in a pair, so you get 2 in a pack. So you can keep one with your main sewing stuff, keep one with your machine, you know, wherever you need them. Give one to a friend, but these are invaluable. I've not worn through them yet. I've had them for years, but you can grab a needle and pull, you can grab a needle and push with them. And it really, I have carpal tunnel, and these things have saved my life. So this is wonderful. This is a bone needle that I carved many years ago. And I also use it as a type of awl. So this and this, I can use that to work a hole into the weave of a fabric without like actually cutting. And then I've used it for coarse stuff. It is not the most effective thing. This is a great yarn darner. So if I have some fine yarn and I'm wanting to finish an end, I can use this if I'm at an event and I'm trying to do, you know, trying to maintain a period ambiance. A friend of mine in the SCA gave me this, and it is road worn, but it is a needle book, and she made it with, I believe this is deer skin or elk skin, and it's super soft, and she just stitched in leaves of, and these were all separate leaves, but I like to double them up for firmness, and I have an extra needle threader in there just as a backup, but I keep most of my pins here, some needles there, there's a large one. So if I'm at an event and I want something that doesn't look modern, I'll keep that. And then I have yet to incorporate these guys into this book. I keep meaning to. So I filmed this whole thing sitting down, and I ended up like just reorganizing my whole container, because it was like, oh, I need to do this. Oh, I need to do this. So I just decided to refilm it. I have a bunch of safety pins here. My larger box that I'll show you has a lot more safety pins, but this is where I keep, you know, this is just where stuff has ended up. So these S hooks are wonderful. You get these from leather merchants. So when I go to Penzic, there were some merchants near the barn on the street that goes toward the Enchanted Campground that were always set up on that street, and they have the S-shaped sailcloth needles. But you can look up sailcloth needles. They should have a triangular head. Let's see if I can pull this out. There we go. So number one, that S shape is really easy to grab. And see if I can. See if I can get a focus here. Maybe not. But this is actually a triangular head. There's 3 sides. It is difficult to see. 1, 2, and 3. The reason 3 sides is important is it is less likely to tear the cloth as opposed to a round or a different shaped needle. And it is easier to grab because of the S shape. So this is what I use when I'm sewing tent fabric. Things that have a lot of tensile strength, where you need to not, you really are wanting to not rip the fabric. You're wanting it to stay strong in its construction. So that is what I use. Let's see, I can make this go through. Come on. I'll just do that. There we go. Good enough for now. We will clean this up later, of course. So it is very hard doing things one-handed. And then just rando needles there. I try to keep stuff a little more to the inside. So that's that. And it really holds an awful lot, and I've never had problems with anything falling out of this ever. So I feel very secure about this setup. It has been like one of the most useful things I've had in my kit. I absolutely love it to death. And these guys need to be put in it because you can never have enough large needles for weird projects. Let's see. I should have got these out beforehand. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. Okay. So these are veneer. And I believe the Spanish Peacock made these. It's a woodworker who makes drop spindles and a couple other things. But these are thread bobbins. So you would kind of, I'm not sure if I'm winding them up correctly. You know, maybe you have to go diagonal or not. But this is what I use this for my remnants of thread. Like if I have heavy upholstery thread or button and carpet thread or leftover embroidery floss, I will put them on this, and that will help me to keep things in line. This is a set of unfinished, it's pieces of veneer that are cut to be tablet cards for tablet weaving. And I've just got them tied together for now. But it's a pack of several. So if I wanted to weave some narrow fabric, this acts as a mini loom. And you would have long strands of fabric. You would string one hole gets one thread. So each card holds 4 threads, 1 per hole. And so when you weave, the different pieces go up and down at different times. So if you turn, it's like sheds going up and down, and then you can weave your fabric crossways. So this will be good for weaving a really narrow little ribbon or weaving an edge on some clothing that acts as kind of a protective reinforcement. So that is everything. All of this, all of this, all of this, all of this. And these are sold at Joann's around Christmas time. It is a gift tin. It holds 10 packs of clove gum. And it is an awesome little, not for the SCA, mind you, but just, if you were doing like post-apocalyptic, you could distress this out and make it look really vintage. Or anyone who's doing like 50s stuff, this would be a handy little tin that would kind of blend in. Or if you just don't even care and you just like tins. So, but it holds an awful lot. It holds a good chunk of this, except for some of the bigger pieces. So usually when it's all said and done, something like all of this may be loose, and all of this might be packed in. Almost all of this fits in here, which is kind of impressive. It's really close to all of that fits in there, and then all of that fits in there. So that's part 1. Now let me segue and get the big box out. Okay, so now we're ready for the next section. And this is a really huge sewing box. This box is so huge. It holds a 12-inch ruler, and this is the reason I picked this particular box. Also, it looks a little bit steampunk, so I was tickled with that. I hold bigger stuff, things that more involve machine sewing. There's a little bit of spool storage of thread. So first thing that's on top is the attachment for my sewing machine. So I'm going to put this over here out of the way, and we're going to move this back a little bit in hopes of making some room for things. Okay, so I need a new cartridge for this, but a lint roller is often handy. This actually goes in my craft stash and does not belong in here, so we're going to put that off to the side. We have 2 cutting mats here. We have a small one, which is really super handy if you're working like from a TV table or a very small surface and you just need a little something that's a protective surface. This one's the size of a sheet of paper, so it's good for medium-sized projects and just to keep your stuff in order. This is a really nifty Goodwill find. This is some silk twist thread in various colors. So that was a recent find, and it just landed just straight in the container as is. I'm going to let you look inside. So after all those first layers, we have all of this. And I don't eat ice cream anymore hardly, but while I was on my ice cream binge, these Talente ice cream containers are wonderful for holding a set of spools of thread. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and a pesto jar. My pesto jar holds all my other thimbles. So there's various ones of varying sizes. Nothing to write home about. They're just thimbles. And you saw the other two that I had in my other. So what I keep in here is 2 of these are, yeah. So I'm not going to rant too much about what I have. These are all Egyptian cotton thread, 100% cotton thread, and it's for special projects or vintage sewing where I'm wanting to do all cotton. I've got most of my bright colors in here, my primary and tertiary colors, then I've got a bunch of neutrals in this one. So we're just going to scoot this out of the way. And then these are mundane dual duty threads, cotton covered polyester. Back before DNC, dual duty, I guess that's Coates and Clark, went to 100% polyester. And I heard a thing about that modern thread that's 100% polyester. The machines are more designed supposedly to handle polyester, and your older vintage machines like cotton a little bit more. So if you have an old machine and suddenly thread is evil and doesn't like your machine, you may want to try to go over to finding older spools of thread that are cotton covered polyester or 100% cotton and see how that works for you. I've got those little binder clips that you use in lieu of pinning. I use those for just difficult or thick fabrics. These are probably just enough to keep me out of trouble, and I just mix them in with all of that business there. So there's that, and then there's some in colors. So a lot of that was based on a project I was working on last. The next things I have, and I'm gonna pull these out, is I've got 3. These are dollar store, like the office supply section. So I have 3 of these bins, and one of these is for sewing machine needles. So this is all sewing machine needles, and these are all specialty. Whatever was not in my little zip pouch that I had before is in here. There's like beading needles, specialty embroidery needles, that kind of stuff. I don't know if it's anything to write home about, but I usually keep a little piece of flannel or felt. Sometimes, like I said, I'll get stuff at Goodwill in a pack, or sometimes I'll just buy more because I'm running out. I usually like to keep a lot of mainly embroidery needle sharps. Beading needles I hardly ever use. I haven't done a beading project in a while, although I've been hoarding beads. So, you know, but they're always there. Tools don't ever die. So, and they stack neatly. They're very compartmentalized, and so that's good for that kind of a project. All right, so junky scissors for cutting things that I don't want to cut my fabric scissors with. These are an ergonomic pair of scissors, and I love these because you can operate them one-handed. They've got a slide control, and instead of doing that, you're literally just, and you can go along the surface of the fabric more smoothly. So these are awfully handy. I've got, I don't know, I have several pair of these, and they're good. They're good. My gingers I use for really good stuff, but they need sharpening. So I need to find a scissor sharpening guy at Joann's. I've got, I have been, you know how you inherit sewing supplies. I've been sewing, God, I'm in my 50s now, so I've been sewing since I was a kid, since I was like a little teenager-ish, like even just before, like 11 or 12, I think I was sewing even then. Nothing fancy, but eventually you start building up all these colors from old projects, and I spent like a year, you know, when you're zigzag stitching stuff, like let's say you cut out some fabric, I like to overcast, not serger, but do zigzag on everything. To keep it from unraveling, and that's at least until I can get it folded down and welted. And my clothes tend to last forever because I do overkill on a lot of them, the costumes that I sew. But I had so many spools that all of these were full, and I said, I am not going beyond 2 of these. I don't need that many. So I have been going through the odd, less common colors And so now I've got empty bobbins all over the place. I need to like round them up from my sewing machine or from other areas and put them back in here and fill all these up with the empty spools. That way they're all in one place. But I've got, okay, now where did the other bodkin go? I've lost, oh, maybe it's in here. Hang on. So this is my rando loose thing. Oh, it is in here. Okay. I was so scared I'd lost it. Let's pull out this little guy next. All right, this is all random stuff. This is an old pair of glasses. This is embellishing adhesive. It just landed in here. I probably got it in a pack of something. I've got a gauge for sewing and knitting so I can measure how many stitches to the inch. You stick that in your knittings and you count how many stitches are in between. So that's handy to have as a backup. A little baby templates. The crazy big needles that don't fit anywhere else. Like this is like a large upholstery needle here. And so that's great for doing really big jobs like with cushions and stuff. There's another darning glove that probably goes to my thread cutter that's in my pouch. This little guy is kind of a little bodkin. It is it's got an eye hole on one end and it has a little ball on the other, and so you can run a piece of elastic or stitch a piece of elastic or something on anything you need to lace through a casing. You can grab this, and this little ball end makes it easy to grab and find, and so you can just work it through something you need to get laces through. So that's awfully handy. That is from Mr. Stomenica, who gave that to me. I think it's for the consultoria. And some old buttons that got landed in here that probably need to go in my button stash. Oh, evidently this is where all thread cutting caps go today. But all my weird needles are here. My serger that I never use, hardly. The little tweezers that you use to lace things through are in here. A few random blades. A very weak magnet. I need to get a stronger one. If you scatter needles on the floor, it's always good to have a magnet handy to like skitter it across the floor to pick stuff up, because sometimes it's hard to grab a needle off the floor. A little sharpener in case I have any marking pens that I happen to need. For my sewing machine if I need to get into it and adjust anything. So this is kind of like the little thing at the very bottom. I keep it at the bottom. It never tips out. It's usually pretty well behaved. So that stays at the bottom. I'm going to put this over here. And a darning egg in case I have to do any repairs. Like you put the sock over it or whatever the piece of fabric is. And you've got it grabbed. And then you can just run the needle over the piece and do the repair. Yet another measuring tape. We can put that in there. Because redundancy is not a horrible thing sometimes. Extra tailor's chalk. But I think I'll probably die before I go through my last batch. That stuff lasts a while. No, this is not a kitty box. You go play. We're good. Thank you. Ah, cat, you're jinxing me. All right, we have a couple of pencils, which can kind of go in there. Random pieces of, I can sometimes use stuff like this as a straight edge or to wrap a piece of ribbon. So I usually keep a couple little rando pieces of cardboard and I'll just put them up in here out of the way because they're not really of any use. And there's a beat up tape measure there. That's for pins. I never use it that way. The last thing in here is a really long, almost as long as the ruler. And this is a turner. Like if you sew up a narrow spaghetti strap, you can use the latch hook, go all the way through the spaghetti strap, grab the end of it, hook it in there, and then start turning it inside out and pull it and reverse it. And then you have your piping or your spaghetti strap. So that's a handy, weird tool that I keep in there. Anything else I have that's like a lot of ribbon or trim, those have separate containers. I try to keep this as much as limited to small hand tools and thread as possible. And that is related to sewing. So things like this should be with my beads. And there's just, you know, it's not bad that I've only found like 2 or 3 small things that really don't belong in here. That shows that I keep it fairly well vetted out and everything fits. So this is like my bug out sewing bag. I can just grab and go. So I keep all my big narrow stuff there. This is good. The reason I keep some quilt templates in here is, and I'll use those with the cutting pieces, is if somebody's having a sewing night and I have a project that I don't want, that does not transport well, but I always am cutting up quilting fabric once in a while, and I can use that to do busy work. So that works out well for that. So, and that's everything. So I appreciate you watching. We can load all this back up, and it holds a tremendous amount of stuff. I'm just always blown away by how well everything packs in here. It's like the never-ending stash of stuff. Let's see, I think most of that goes here. And then I did pack one thing out of order, so I get to redo part of this. I believe this goes down on the bottom. I try to keep the things I use the least on the very, very bottom. And then the things I use more often toward the top. So that usually works out well for that. This goes here. This goes here. I think that fits all pretty well. And then these guys, I'm into these the most. So I think that's everything. And look at how much space I have, and we still have to, I'm not going to put that in there, because I'm always wearing glasses anymore. That was back when I didn't have to wear glasses close up, but now I have to constantly, so I just need to make a note to get more lint rollers, and then I'm done. And look, plenty of room to spare. Well, I say plenty of room to spare, and then that happens. So we'll do this. I think that'll make it work. We may cut this early. There we go. All done. Bob's your uncle. And that is my main stash. So I've basically reshot everything maybe twice. I've managed to only trim 5 minutes off of the entire thing. So thank you so much for being with me on this journey. And if you would like to see more content, please like and subscribe. And I appreciate your time. Thank you. Happy Valentine's Day. And now for the kitten cameos. Dad, are you the keeper of the makeup? Oh, baby girl. I said, my sweetie.